While I'm thinking about it, I asked you about Paul and his use of a cell phone. Do you know where he kept his cell phone when it wasn't in his hand?
Most of the time in his pockets.
Was he typically one to respond pretty quick to you? If you
Normally,
were talking about something?
Normally, yeah, if we were talking about something, he would respond pretty quick.
That evening, did you talk to Paul again after that initial conversation?
I did.
All right. And when was that, roughly?
Around 8:40.
Okay. And what was that conversation about?
He called and asked if something was wrong with the dog's tail.
Okay. And was that the first you were hearing about that?
That's correct.
Tell me about your conversation.
I told him that, I wasn't real sure. I just dropped him off there Sunday. And told him let's try to see if he can get me a picture or FaceTime me and let me see what was going on with the dog's tail.
All right. Where was Paul when he called you?
He was at the dog kennels.
And how do you know that?
I could hear the dogs barking in the original call.
Is he describing to you what he's seeing on Cash's tail?
That's correct.
And Cash was at the kennels?
He was.
Did you hear any other voices when you were on the phone with Paul about 8:40?
I did.
And what voices did you hear?
I heard Miss Maggie.
And who else did you hear?
And I thought it was Mr. Alex that I heard.
You thought it was Mr. Alex? You talked to Paul, and what did y'all talk about? What was he going to do?
He was going to try to FaceTime me. He
And-
said, you know how the service is out here. He said, if I can't get the FaceTime to go through, I'll send you a video.
And why was he going to FaceTime you? What's the difference between FaceTime and a regular call?
So I could see what was wrong with the dog.
And y'all talked about how the service is out here?
That's correct.
And what did you mean by that?
Most of the time you got enough service to make a call. I mean, sometimes the calls would break up, but a FaceTime, you couldn't really get a whole lot of service to make the FaceTime call. It's kind of lagging.
Y'all have had problems with that before?
That's correct.
Did y'all discuss what to do if the FaceTime didn't work?
We did.
And what was the discussion?
He was going to send me a video of it, of the dog.
He was going to video it and then do what with it? Text it to you?
That's correct.
Is that the last time you ever talked to your friend?
That was.
Did y'all try to FaceTime?
We did.
Did it work?
It came through, but it was kind of lagging. I couldn't tell what was going on.
And then never heard from him again?
That's correct.
Did you ever get that video?
I did not.
After you never got the video, did you try to reach back out to Paul to see if you could get him to respond?
I did. I called him a few times and texted him.
Did he ever respond?
He did.
Did you reach out to anyone else trying to get Paul to respond?
I texted Miss Maggie.
Did she respond?
She did.
About what time do you think you went to bed that night?
I'm not exactly sure. It was sometime right after I probably tried to contact him.
And you never heard from Miss Maggie either?
I did.
Did you ever talk to her at all that day?
I did.
About what time you think you went to bed?
I'm going to say somewhere around 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock. You a pretty sound sleeper?
That's correct.
Been working on the farm all day?
That's correct.
Did some calls come in that you didn't realize because you were asleep?
Yes, I woke up with some missed calls.
What time did you wake up the next morning?
Sometime around 5:30.
When did you find out that your friend Paul and his mother Maggie had been murdered?
That same time, 5:30.
How'd you find out?
I called one of my friends that had left me, or I had a missed call from, and he told me what had happened.
All right. And tell me his first name, please.
Nolan.
What'd you do after that?
We got a little old boy up and got him to school without talking about it a whole lot, and then we headed back home.
And by home you mean Colleton County?
Colleton County, that's correct.
And where'd you go from there?
I went to my house first, then I ended up going to Moselle.
About what time you think you got there?
Sometime maybe 8:30, 9 o'clock.
What'd you see when you got there? Where'd you go on the property?
I went to the dog kennels.
And who'd you see there? Did you talk to anyone there?
I did, and I seen John Marvin. but I didn't speak to him.
Did you talk to anybody at the scene when you first went there?
The only person I seen was John Marvin.
What'd you do after that?
My cousin let the dog out the kennel.
That being cash?
That's correct.
Did you take cash with you?
I did.
And where'd y'all go from there?
To the convenience store down the road from the house.
And who'd you meet there?
I met a game warden.
Okay. And what'd you do after that? Did you have a conversation?
I did. I had a conversation with him, and he said that law enforcement was going to be wanting to speak with me. And I told him, I said, well, if you got a contact, let's get them up here and let's talk.
And so did you wait for law enforcement to arrive?
I did.
Do you remember who you talked to?
I did.
And who'd you talk to?
Jeff Croft and Katie McAllister.
And did they do an interview of you?
They did.
Did they ask you about your communications with Paul the night before?
They did.
And did they ask you to see your cell phone?
They did.
Did they take screenshots of your cell phone?
That's correct.
Were you showing them your communications the night before with Paul and Maggie and others the night before?
Yes, sir.
Were you holding up the phone and they were taking screenshots?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification. 165, 166, 167, 168, 169, 170, 171, and 172. And just flip those real quick and see if you recognize those images. Do you recognize those?
I do.
And what are those?
And that's all activity on my phone. Missed calls, text.
Stand by for one second. Your Honor, just out of abundance of caution, I believe these are in evidence, but just to be clear, 165, 166, 167, 168, 169, 170, 171, and 172. We would make sure those are in evidence. Move those in evidence and leave without objection.
That's correct. Okay.
They're admitted.
All right. May I have the Elmo, please? Mr. Gibson, I'm going to put these up on the screen. You got a screen up there, and so take a look at that, okay?
Okay.
All right, 165. Can y'all turn the screen around for me, please? And that's a screenshot that Jeff Croft took of your phone that on June 8th, 2021, the next day.
That's correct.
All right, and that reflects a call from who?
Paul.
And which Paul is that?
Paul Murdaugh.
All right, and what time is that call?
8:40 p.m.
And how long does it last?
4 minutes.
All right, and is that the call you just described to this jury?
It is.
The call y'all were talking about Cash the dog and trying to figure out the tail?
It is.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as 166. Now, again, you told this jury that when y'all got off the call, he was going to try to FaceTime you, and if not, send a video.
That's correct.
All right, and I'll show you 166. Is that another screenshot of it?
It is.
And that's the FaceTime call, is that right?
That's correct.
8:44 p.m.
That's correct.
for 11 seconds.
That's correct.
That FaceTime didn't work, though, did it?
Yeah, it came through, but it was lagging. We couldn't communicate through it.
So y'all stopped.
That's correct.
And you were expecting what after that?
A video.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as States 167. Are these texts that were on your phone?
They are.
And who are those texts between? Who are you trying to text right there down those last two bubbles?
I was sending those texts to Paul.
All right. It's got a little glare on it. Well, what time is that text right there?
8:49 p.m.
And that's on June 7th, 2021?
That's correct.
And what are you telling Paul right there? Can you read that to the jury and then explain what you were trying to say to Paul, please?
See if you can get a good picture of it. Mary Ann wants to send it to a girl we know that's a vet. Tell him to sit and stay, and he shouldn't move around too much.
Who were you talking about when you said tell him to sit and stay?
Cash, the dog.
Did you send another text right here?
I did.
What time is that? Can you read it?
9:58 p.m.
What do you say?
Yo.
And when you say yo to Paul, what are you trying to get him to do?
Just trying to get him to call me back or text me back.
Because you hadn't gotten that video.
That's correct.
We'll show you what's been marked as 168. States. Is that another screenshot of your phone?
That is.
These are missed calls from June 7th, 2021?
That's correct.
Or these are outgoing calls?
They are.
Who are you trying to call?
Paul Murdaugh.
Tell me the times you tried to call him. Start from the bottom, please.
9:10 p.m., 9:29 p.m., 9:42 p.m., 9:57 p.m.
Did he ever respond?
No, sir.
I'll show you what's been marked as states 169. Is that another screenshot of your phone?
It is.
Who are you trying to call right there?
Paul.
What's that last call?
10:08 p.m.
Did he answer that call?
He did not.
Show you what's been marked as states 170. Is that another screenshot of your phone?
It is.
And who are you trying to text right here?
Miss Maggie.
What time did you try to text her?
9:34 p.m.
And what did you text her?
Tell Paul to call me.
Tell Paul to call me.
Yes, sir.
Did she ever respond?
She did not.
You said you woke up the next morning on June 8th, 2021, and you saw you had some missed calls. Is that right?
That's correct.
And we'll show you what's been marked as states 171. Was this also a screenshot or a picture that Special Agent Croft took of your phone?
It is.
All right. And who are those missed calls from?
Mr. Ellick.
And what time did they come in?
10:21 p.m. and 10:24 p.m.
And that would have been on June 7th, 2021?
That's correct.
Were you asleep at that time?
I was.
Unaware they were coming in?
That's correct.
172. Is that another screenshot of your phone?
It is.
All right. And those other missed calls that came in?
10:25 p.m. and 10:30 p.m.
When you spoke to Special Agent Croft on June 8th, 2021, did you tell him and Special Agent McAllister who you thought you heard on that phone call at 8:40?
I did.
And who did you say you heard?
I thought it was Mr. Ellick, but I wasn't exactly sure.
Did you give him a percentage?
I did.
What'd you say?
99%.
That you heard Mr. Alec on that phone call at 8:40.
That's correct.
As time went on after the murders, did you go to Moselle where all the family and friends were gathering?
I did.
Were you there a fair amount?
Probably the whole part of that later that week.
While you were there at the house where the family and friends had gathered, did anyone ever ask you about your last contact with Paul?
There was.
And who asked you?
Grandma.
And that be Miss Brandstutter,
That's correct.
Maggie's mother?
That's correct.
And what did you say?
Told her, yeah, that I talked to Paul about the dog, and told her that I heard Miss Maggie in the background, and I heard a male voice that I thought was Mr. Ellick.
Was he in the room then?
Yes,
Did he stand up and say, "No, I wasn't there"?
he did.
Did you ever have any conversation with Alex Murdaugh about what happened that night?
No, sir.
Did he ever ask you about whether or not you heard him on that phone that night?
No, sir.
Did he ever tell you what he did that night?
No, sir.
Did you ever ask him what he did that night?
No, sir.
Not a subject you wanted to talk about, was it?
That's correct.
Over time, as the months passed following the murder of Paul and Maggie, you were ultimately interviewed by law enforcement and other part of the process and that sort of thing. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And as time went on and you were asked about who you heard on the phone that night, that call at 8:40, you said, hey, I thought it was Alec, but I can't be sure.
That's correct.
Told law enforcement the night of, 99% sure, correct?
Say that question again, please.
Told law enforcement the next day, June 8th, that you were 99% sure. Is that correct?
That's correct.
As time went on, you said, I thought it was Alec, but I can't be sure.
That's correct.
In November of 2022, did law enforcement ask you to come in and look at a video?
They did.
And did you watch that video?
I did.
And what was on that video?
It was the video. Paul was supposed to take a cash. Cash was on the video.
And did you recognize the voices on there?
I did.
Did you recognize the voices of your second family?
I did.
And what voices did you hear?
Paul's, Miss Maggie, Miss Alex.
And how sure are you now?
Positive.
100%?
That's correct.